How's it going? Welcome to Good Company and welcome back to the Gigafactory. Today we are doing a massive redesign on our handheld product assembly room. There's a couple of things I wanted to achieve with this. Firstly, I wanted 8 tables making each of the products, so that's 40 tables in total. And I also wanted them all connected via a conveyor belt, taking the final product over to the selling area. So that's what we're going for today. I am very happy with how it turned out. We'll need a little bit of tweaking in the future, but this is how it's going to stay basically for the rest of the game. Before we start though, go ahead, check to see if you are subscribed to the channel and also like the video. It really does help out. And if you do want to go the extra mile, you can join the workforce by becoming a channel member and you can get your name at the end of the video. So it was a challenge actually getting every single table fit into this small room. It wasn't as big as I initially thought it was, this room, but we managed to do it. It looks a little bit messy in the end, but overall I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. I am using the same sort of modular design I used before because that really does work well. The 2 tables with the 1 double shelf, and then that's all connected with the splitters and the retrieval segments, and it just works out well. I did have to flip these 90 degrees compared to the other ones on the other side of the room just to fit them in because it didn't work out with the walkways. I do have the logistics employees putting stuff on the shelf, so everything does still need to be accessible. So it was a little bit of rearranging, and it did take me a few tries to actually do this properly. Just because, like I said, it was quite a big job in the end. Initially, I did want to have a conveyor belt that ran around the edge of the room. However, there just wasn't enough space. I think the room was maybe 1 or 2 squares too small for that. So I did have to flip the tables and put them like back to back and then have a conveyor belt running down the center. And I think it works out much better this way anyway, because you're using less conveyor belts and it looks a lot neater as well. And also you don't have to use the overhead segments to actually allow access to different areas of the room. So everything's like contained in the center, so the workers can work their way around the outside. So here on this side I'm doing the game device, the pocket computer and the calculator. And on the other side, obviously, we're going to do the pocket pet and the other thing, which I've forgotten what it is. What is it? It's the cassette player. That's what it is. Totally forgot there. But yeah, wanted to like just redo this side of the room anyway, because I wanted to just make it a little bit more consistent with how it looked on the other side as well. And we are going to use 2 conveyor belts to get the final products over to our final selling area. I just didn't think there was going to be enough throughput on the conveyor belts for all 5 products. However, I do make a discovery later on in this video, and I think we are going to be able to use 1 conveyor belt eventually. But for now, we just keep it at 2, and well, you'll see that when we get to it. So just working out the conveyor belts. This is the first conveyor belt, so that's going to take the pocket computer, the calculator, and the game device over. And then the other conveyor belt is going to take the other 2 products over. So I did learn my lesson from last time changing a product over and archiving old products and stuff. And the best way to do this is just to stop production on your products and let them go through the conveyor belt system, get sold at the end, and basically have no products left existing in your factory from your like initial design before you switch over to a new one. So that's what I did at the start of the video, and while I was making the left side of the room, all of the products on the right side of the room actually made their way through the system onto the pallet at the end and got sold. So we've got no products there, which is all good, and it makes it a lot easier just working out the splitters and mergers at the end, because we do actually have the products going straight onto the pallets at the end. At the moment, as you can see, we've got the products going onto a shelf, and then logistics employees take those over to the pallets. But here I am just rearranging the pallets, trying to make it so the conveyor belt can actually access the pallets directly. So with the 2 conveyor belts, I did have to split them up. So we've got 3 pallets, well, we've got 6 pallets, we've got 2 for each of the 3 products. So that's going to be one conveyor belt going onto those, and then another one going onto those 4 pallets at the top there. using splitters and the storage segments, it just have to work it out. It's not too difficult, to be totally honest, with just the initial with just the final products going on. It gets a little bit more tricky when you've got modules and materials and stuff going through for the other type of machines and that we make. But here it's literally just deciding where the products need to go and get them onto the right pallet, because I did have the pallets set up before. I probably could have just deleted the pallets, and that would have made it a little bit easier, because if you do put something down with logistics slots already set on it, it will do the splitters and mergers automatically, as you can see there. So I had a little bit of trouble deleting stuff, but there is always a way of figuring it out, basically, and I like to do it one by one, just work my way down the conveyor belt and just trying to picture in my mind what's going to go where. And like I said, just work your way down the conveyor belt and it should be fairly easier to figure out what's going on. So if you notice, I didn't actually hire anyone on the assembly tables just yet. I wanted to get everything set up and the splitters and mergers all correct before actually getting product moving through the system, because I thought it might be a little bit funny if things got stuck in the splitters and mergers, because if things get stuck, it can be a bit of a pain to troubleshoot and figure out. So that's why I didn't have any product being made just yet until everything was set up, and just going around hiring everyone on there now, and it should just all kick into life and products should just start flowing. Saying that though, I hired everyone and nothing seemed to work, and I was like, what is going on? So I did actually discover this, the merger right there wasn't set up properly, but once we set the directions and that, it was all good, and as you can see, got products flowing through there. Just hiring a bunch more logistics workers on this room, because we've got so many more tables now, we need that product moving through. And as you can see, we've got products finally on the pallets. Just got rid of all of the logistics employees in here because we didn't actually need them. Everything's going to be fully automatic in here from now on, so we're not going to need anyone moving product around, so that's all good. And then we're back to the same thing, running out of batteries, which is our favorite thing in the Gigafactory. But don't worry, we actually do sort that out very soon by doing, well, basically redesigning all of the products to use the power packs. But for now, I just wanted to get the products moving and making sure it all worked, which it does. The only thing that I was having trouble with was the throughput of the conveyor belts, and that is because the conveyor belts don't actually move that quickly, and also they have a limit on how many products that can actually exist on the conveyor belt at the same time. So I'm just skipping ahead a tiny bit because it was just me troubleshooting the conveyor belts in the main assembly room, and it wasn't very interesting to watch, I'm not gonna lie. So talking about the conveyor belt throughput again, I think this is really interesting actually, and using these buffer zones was a actual game changer. So how the conveyor belts work in this game is they will look down the conveyor belt system for the next available thing. So it be a splitter or a merger, and it will see if there's any space for the product in that thing basically. If there is space, then it will decide to send the product down. If there is no space, then it won't. The problem occurs when you have very long conveyor belts. When it's sent the product down the conveyor belt, it counts as full up, essentially. So you have to wait for that product to make its way down the conveyor belt into the next module, say splitter or merger, before another product can be sent out. So with the speed of the conveyor belts, if you have a very long conveyor belt, it takes like 10 years for that product to go down, and well, a product can't be sent out until that one has made its way to the end. And I thought I'd experiment with these buffer zones, and it's a complete game changer. It really is, because what this does, it splits the conveyor belt into smaller sections, kind of like block sections on a roller coaster. So for example, say you have one very long conveyor belt that can take one product down at a time. If you have 2 buffer zones on there, that will split into 3 sections. So now 3 products can exist on the conveyor belt at the same time. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's basically what I'm trying to get at is just put buffer zones down the conveyor belt at regular intervals and the throughput will go up massively. I did notice running into a little bit of problem with these actually, that if you put the buffer zones next to other modules, then they won't work correctly. I did have them next to these overhead segments and also at the end, and it just didn't seem to work. But this is me putting them in the middle of the other sections. So as you can see, it's now working. We've got so much product coming down, and that is because you can just see there's space available on the next thing. Did mess up the conveyor belts at the end, and I did panic a little bit, but it was literally just rerouting the conveyor belt there. So all good, very pleased with how this turned out. Here is the final product output. As you can see, we've got a lot of products stacking up, and it's not as much money as the medium cases, but I like that a lot. And here is the final assembly room. So thank you for watching. Thank you to the workforce. Stay safe, have fun. See you on the next one.